Listen to this episode if you have some copycats in your business and you are feeling frustrated by the entire thing. Hello, welcome to the Small Business Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Madison Page, and I help businesses stand out and sell out on social media by building a ride or die community around their brand. Now, I understand how frustrating this can be. I've had it happen to me. I've had it happen to my clients, whether it's a big company copying them or one of their friends or a complete stranger that just followed them on social media. How do you handle having copycats or people that are imitating what you are doing in their business? And it's incredibly clear. I've seen people literally take word for word, copy paste people's captions. I've seen people take people's collection names. I've seen people completely imitate people's websites, whatever it may be. I've seen it. And I understand incredibly how frustrating this can be. There's nothing truly more frustrating than putting your creativity, your blood, your sweat, your tears into something to have somebody else just copy it. And I know everyone's like, oh, imitation is the biggest form of flattery. Yeah, Janet, but it still sucks. And it can still cut into your business, your growth, and your profits as well. Especially if you were here first and now somebody else is doing it and they're getting the recognition for it as well, and it's very clearly something that you helped them or that they took inspiration from you to create. So we're going to talk about this today. This was submitted by an anonymous submission. So if you do know, our Friday episodes are all about their Friday coaching session. So listeners out there for the podcast submit their questions and then I answer them on these Friday coaching session episodes. This one was just anonymous and didn't give any more context than this, but I can speak to this quite a bit. And really at the end of the day, anytime you do anything unique, creative, disruptive, big in your industry, there are going to be people that imitate it out there. Now, when we talk about copycats, we can talk about people stealing your actual copy, your collection names, the style of your art, starting a business that's completely the exact same thing as yours. Or we can talk about a big company like somebody on Amazon or Shein or somebody like that taking your art and basically just ripping it off and making something that way as well. Maybe you are inventing something, and if you don't have a patent, if you don't have anything along those lines, then people literally can just take your product and rip it off and manufacture it for a cheaper amount. So it can kind of mean a variety of things. At the end of the day, bottom line is, if you can legally protect your business by patenting ideas or trademarking phrases or copywriting the things that you are creating, your art and things like that, then that will help you in these instances at least have a fallback and legal action if it's a big enough company. Of course, with all of these things, they do cost money to have patents, trademarks, copyrights, especially if you are a small business that's inventing something or filling a gap in the market. You should try to have some sort of intellectual property, or just like what that means is a copyright, a trademark, or a patent on something, have legal ownership of this idea. And if you have anything that is a signature of yours, as you can trademark them as well. Now, we're not going to go into a full business law kind of whole thing here, but patents, trademarks, and copyrights are three different ways that you can have intellectual property behind your business. I have a business lawyer. Her name is Andrea Sager. She owns Legalpreneur. She's been on my podcast. Sager is Sager. You can follow her on Instagram, or you can just type in the Legalpreneur and you can go to her. She's a trademark attorney. She'll be able to help you with any of these things. And if you can take actual precautions to prevent this, is having patents, copyrights, or trademarks in place. So if you do catch somebody, you can say, hey, I have this patented, and basically send them a cease and desist. And they will have to either take it off of their website or stop doing what they're doing. But if it's a little bit more abstract than that, or you don't have legal ownership of your things, you do technically have copyright of anything that if you can prove that you were the first to create it, that has been replicated. So if it is something that is, hey, I made this and you made that, and I clearly made this first, you followed me, and then you made that, you technically can send them a cease and desist or sue them for copyright infringement. Because even if you didn't file it, you do still have ownership of that art. There are laws. Now, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but there are people out there that can get a little bit more technical with them. With that. So there's really three things that you can do to handle this situation. Depending on the gravity of it, depending on what they're imitating, if it's just captions and content and something similar, you can send them a message. If you want to take the route of actually calling them out and getting them to stop, I don't see anything wrong with that. How I would phrase that message is something like, hey, so-and-so. I know that this might be a touchy topic. However, I have seen that something I have created, insert photo, is very similar to something you have created. I created this on X, Y, and Z date. Therefore, I'm assuming that this is something, or like insert all of your information here, insert all of your proof, and say, I see that you have named something similar to what I've named it, or that you are using my content and mocking it on your website, or copying it and imitating it on your website, where I understand imitation is the biggest form of flattery. This is actually hurting both of our social media, or this is actually hurting both of us by just making us blend in with each other as opposed to actually separating ourselves. I take a lot of pride in creativity and X, Y, and Z in my business, and I would really appreciate it if you were to stop doing it. And if I see more evidence after today, I will take legal action. And they're probably going to respond and say, oh my gosh, I've never seen this. This is a complete coincidence. Forewarning, anytime you call people out on this, most times they're going to say they had no idea, they've never seen it. And you're not really getting them there to try to admit guilt. You're just getting them there to say, hey, I see this. I see that you are doing something similar to me, and I like that you are onto it. Because I think a lot of people imitate with the concept of nobody will ever catch on that I am imitating them. But it actually is very easy to catch. And so I think some people think that it's just like, you'll never catch on to the fact. And so when they do, they're kind of taken aback. And a lot of times you will get you'll get naysayers. They're like, oh my gosh, I've never seen you before, but you get to stand on your own ground. And then after that, I'd literally copy in a lawyer on it. I use Andrea Sager. She is I can CC her on my emails. I can send people to her that way. And she is my business attorney. You can handle it that way. I would probably go a more casual route before actually just CCing an attorney, unless it is so incredibly blatant. I would just CC an attorney on it and have them send a cease and desist. The next way is you can turn a blind eye. The complete opposite of what I was just saying is calling them out. You can turn a blind eye and understand that they will always be behind you. They will always be 1, 2, 3, 10 steps behind you if they are just copying you. By the time they are mastering what you are already doing, you are already 10 steps ahead of them. You have already moved on and you're starting into the next step. And so understanding that is something that you can do is say, I see these people. Maybe you block them so they can no longer see your content or something like that. But you can turn a blind eye and understand that they will always be 1 step behind you, and kind of just try to take the higher road, make your mindset shift that, imitation is the biggest form of flattery. Anybody that wants to do it, good luck. Please try to do what I'm trying to do and go on from there. Some business owners I've heard say this, like big time business owners that see other businesses trying to mock them, say, you know what? I hope you do, because it's been a long road to get here. I am confident enough in my creativity, in my ideas, to understand that other people are out there. Some people don't see copying as a form of competition. And as a form of, it's always going to be competition, but as a form of a challenge, it's just, all right, good luck. I hope that you can keep up with it. And you guys are always going to be a little different. And of course, when we are building communities, people connect to you. There's people out there that do exactly what I do in different capacities, in a different way, just because they aren't me. They don't have my brain, but you are listening to this podcast right now because you connect with me different than you connect with other people. And that's just how the world works. And so understanding that somebody else can be doing something very similar similar to you or copying you, they'll always be a step behind you, and people are just going to connect with who they're going to connect with at the end of the day. And number 3 is you can let it fuel you. You don't need to turn a blind eye to it, but you can let it fuel you into more competition, to be that much more creative, to be that much more disruptive, to be that much more unique. Because if you are being imitated, if you are being copied in some sense, people are seeing what you are doing and they are saying, I like it, she's clearly going to get somewhere and I want to do that too. And so you can take that as a form of a pat on the back and say, you know what, I'm doing something right. You are going to get, anytime you're doing something disruptive, you're doing something creative or unique, you're either going to get hate and you're going to get copycats. You're going to get either or both of them, and people are going to want to mock what you are trying to do. That is how competition goes, and you can let it fuel you into, you know what, I'm just going to be that much bigger, I'm going to be that much better, and you're going to get competitive with it. Now, if it were me, I've had this happen in my business where I've had people come in and they started using, I've actually had an employee, an ex-employee that started using my verbiage in their business and started to use my frameworks. That's something that happened, and I called them out. I didn't threaten any legal action. I did say, hey, I've realized that you've started to use my things now that you've been working for me. Like, that is not okay. These are my frameworks. They're not yours. And that was how I handled it. She apologized. She said, I didn't know. She knew that it was like taking it from mine. She just like, it was kind of like in her verbiage at that point, and we handled it amicably. I've had clients that let it fuel them and say, you know what, clearly they just see, and I'm going to take the high road. I'm going to talk about why, like the authority that my business has. This is how many years I've been in business. This is how many states I've sold to. This is how many countries I've sold to. Look at how, and kind of differentiate yourself versus these other business based on your authority in what you have. And I've had people just say, you know what, I hope you try. And they turn a blind eye to it, and they understand that those people are going to be a step behind them. And it's going to, you know, it's just going to let them go and do it. If you've ever heard of Mel Robbins' kind of let them theory, it's if people are going to copy them, let them, don't let it take on any more mental load that you have. It really depends on the gravity of the situation. Are they copying your entire business? Are they copying your entire product line or your invention that you created? If it's basically knocking off your product, what do you want to do about it? How is it impacting your business? And what really feels most empowering to you? I hate confrontation in my business. It's an unsexy part of being a business owner. Sometimes it's necessary. I am not a confrontational person by any means. If you can't tell, your girl's a little bit of a softie, but sometimes as a business owner, you have to protect your house, and this is your house. This is your income. This is your job, and you have to be able to be a little bit more firm. If you don't want to do it, that's where a lawyer is really great as well, and that also is a little bit of a fear tactic to make it where people, and it is like you do legally have the rights to what you are creating. So without having too much context for the person that submitted this question, it really depends on the gravity of the situation, how you feel empowered behind, what action you feel empowered behind. But the 3 pretty much ways is you can call them out. You can either call them out casually first and threaten legal action second, or just call them out and threaten legal action right away. Or honestly, you can just slap them with a cease and desist. If you feel like it is that blatant, you can slap them with a cease and desist of a copyright. You can turn a blind eye and just say, you know what, good luck. I hope you try, kind of take that higher road, and they will understand that they will always be a step behind you, or let it fuel you to be that much more creative, that much more disruptive, and that much more unique, and let it kind of build that competition inside of you. Are you a competitive person? Are you not? How do you really want to take that? And which of these feels the best for you? It's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different for every situation, but these are the options that I've seen and that I've helped people through as well. This is not a fun part of business, but it is part of it. In any business, you get people that are trying to imitate or copy. You can walk down the aisles in the grocery store and you can see how brands have done this with each other in the state of competition. They basically all just kind of become one product. And then there's one person that stands out, and you want to be the one that stands out. You want to be the one that just keeps adapting and just keeps moving and just keeps shaking in pivoting. So you get to be the unique and the disruptive one. And so that is really what it is. And at the end of the day, understanding there are going to be probably dozens of people doing something similar to you, if not hundreds. There are hundreds of people doing something similar to me that I am doing right now, is teaching you about being a small business owner. But you connect with me. You connect with my business. You connect with my podcast. And that's why you're here listening. And so it's okay if there's other people out there. You just have to understand that this is why we want to be unique. This is why we want to have a personal brand. This is why we want to keep developing and pivoting and adapting and building a community so people connect with you over everybody else. At the end of the day, your community is what matters. Yes, we want to legally protect our products, our ingredients, our things, but it's something that we can't always control because some of these things aren't legally protected unless you go through the whole expensive process to make it happen. And at that point, you have to let it fuel you into understanding that it isn't a form of flattery, even though it is so incredibly frustrating. It is just sometimes part of it. So I hope this was helpful for you. For the anonymous person that submitted this, thank you. If you have a question you would like me to answer, feel free to click the link in the show notes and submit your questions. I answer a community asked question every single week on Fridays, and maybe next episode will be your question on my podcast and I will answer it live. So if you would like to give me some context down there, would love to answer that in one of the next episodes. I hope this was helpful. I love you. I'm rooting for you and I'm in your corner always. Get out there and be disruptive. Copycats are all part of your business.